I haven't done the math. We have
You have people who
a
do
finance
math?
department that does math.
Right.
But I can tell you that our biggest challenge right now is that there's way too much demand for the supply. So that's why we've been ramping up our sales team and to get people in the door. So we've kept it small, and we've purposely kept it small so we can test very thoroughly and learn from what's happening and get feedback from the advertisers. So it's about 40 advertisers so far. We expect to be in the hundreds by the end of the year. But the response has been really interesting in most cases. And the promoted trends have been working really well. And that was a couple examples. What we see is on average, they promote, what the promoted trends do, and in all these cases what we've done is we've taken an organic part of Twitter and given companies an opportunity to basically optimize what they're already doing on Twitter and increase the engagement and conversation around their topics. And what we find with promoted trends is it increases conversation about whatever's promoted by 3 to 6 times, and including beyond when it's running. So this has been used a lot for movies, for television shows, for media properties when they want to launch stuff. AMC just launched The Walking Dead with a promoted trend, and we're very happy.
When I asked my followers on Twitter what questions he might ask you, one of them was from the guy who bought that Ian Deep Focus. He said, "Hey, that really helped. Thanks."
Right.
But then he said there was another one that didn't work so well. But then he said maybe
Can't bat 1,000.
Yeah, can't bat 1,000, but 50% ain't bad. And also, it's also is the movie any good because you have a signal in terms of whether or not something continues to get promoted. Right?
Yeah. So that's a big part of why it took us a while to roll this out, is because we thought, well, we can't just put stuff in front of people. If they don't care about it, then it doesn't do them any good. It doesn't do advertising any good. So we built some technology. We have what we call resonance score for every tweet, and that's a measure basically of how much people are engaging in it beyond or compared to what we would expect statistically. And so if something has low resonance, it falls off and it doesn't remain there as an ad, and so that benefits users and advertisers.
So actually there was a promoted tweet I noticed on the hashtag on the search for Web2 Summit for W2S.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't recognize the advertiser. So that's a different system in terms of how did that happen? And where's my commission? I'm kidding on that.
Talk about that next year. I don't know how that happened, to tell you the truth. I suspect that people knew there was going to be a lot of... Twitter's always been great for events, and this is a big event that Twitter users are searching on and watching the conversation, and it makes sense. Someone wants to be there. Right? Someone wants to be at the top of that conversation, wants to reach this audience and the millions of people who are watching along at home.
Well, but it's been now, really 6 months or so, even a little longer since you've been experimenting with this. So do you think you've learned enough to be able to say, we've figured enough out to say, I have a strong revenue model?
The math looks good, and I'll tell you, most of the advertisers are coming back and they want to buy more. And if we're optimistic about what it means for our business. We know we're also at the very beginning of it. So if, I'm not going to make any guarantees, but we feel good about where it is. It's, there's a million ways to make money with Twitter. We'll probably try a few more. And we're not married to anything we're doing now, but we're pleasantly surprised. Actually, it's done better than we even expected. So that's going to go well.
That's certainly good. Let me ask you another question that relates to revenue, which is another one of your sources of revenue, and it was pretty much a central story last year, is the Twitter Firehose and access to the Twitter Firehose. Like a lot of different platform services, anyone can access this, you sort of sit from it, but not the whole thing. The whole thing you reserve the right to enter into a business relationship with parties to do that. And some of those were announced last year. here.
Right.
Since then, what strategic announcements have you made? And in particular, can we talk about, and I don't even know how to pronounce GNIP.
GNIP.
GNIP, I thought it might be. You announced this today, right? Or yesterday?
Yes.
Which is a sort of a half hose, and they're going to be a reseller of that. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. We had all these funny names for the different hose versions internally. We had hose bird, and hose dog, and garden hose, and half hose may as well be in there as well. Yeah, so a year ago here we announced Microsoft and Google relationships where we licensed them the Firehose of public tweets to incorporate in their search engines. We later added Yahoo, so we have all those guys. But what's happened since is we've gotten just way more demand than we can service for that data. And the point of those deals was never primarily about revenue. It was, we believed that it was good to get more distribution of the tweets, and because the whole point of them is to help people know what's going on in the world, and these search engines are where people are going in many cases to find out what's going on. So we thought it was a win-win for users and for the search engines and for us to get this distribution. And so that has gone well, and we've done a few deals since, but we didn't really set up for this to be our big revenue model, so we didn't build a whole team around doing these licensing deals, and we've gotten lots of demand. Specifically, we've gotten demand from people and companies who want to look at this data to learn about trends and analytics for marketers and other companies about what people are saying about X, Y, or Z. And there's a million ways to slice and dice this data, and a lot of companies that are in that business, and we're not really in that business. So what we did is we formed this partnership with GNIP, and where we give them the Firehose and they do the reselling of it. And that's that half the Firehose is enough to, more than enough to do statistically relevant analysis on almost any topic.
As I understand it, what is being resold is the ability to sort of derive pattern from the data, not to show the data.
That's right.
Okay. One of the themes throughout the conference, and you get to be the guy at the end who ties it all up with a bow, is can't we all just get along? And Danny Sullivan, who's here, and an old pal and colleague, wrote a post today where he basically showed disappointment in my interviewing skills. And that I couldn't get Eric to say he would work with Mark, and we couldn't get Mark to say he would work with Eric in terms of exchanging data and working together. So let me just ask you, are we ever going to see that Firehose consumed by Facebook?
I think you'd have to ask Mark that, but you missed your opportunity.
Always willing to
We tried.
put a petard right in front of myself that you can hoist me on.
We also didn't ask Mark why they blocked us from doing the integration.
Well, this is along the lines of the can't
Like,
we
it's
all
like-
get along?
yeah.
So are you frustrated by that? Are you...
Sure. I mean, we'd like our users to be able to tap into Facebook to make their Twitter experience better. Twitter does integrate with Facebook to a certain degree.
Yeah, all my
go
tweets,
that
all
way.
my tweets go into Facebook, but I can't tweet out.
Right. But I don't know, not everything, I understand their position. They see their social graph as their core asset, and they want to make sure it's fair, that they want to make sure there's a win-win relationship with anybody who accesses it.
Right.
So, we're talking to them often and seeing if there is a way to work together, but so far neither side has found out a way to do that other than what we do already.
Right.
So we'll see.
We'll see. Recently,